Hey everybody, it is Dawn with Living Chronically, a channel dedicated to staying positive and motivated while living with chronic conditions. In my first video, up here-ish somewhere, I talked a little bit about myself and what's led me to create this channel. And so now I'm going to go into what I'm going to be doing here. And then my next video will be about why. So in a nutshell, what I want to do with this channel is create a resource. I want to create a place where you can find information and insight and experience and strategies that you might be able to filter through your own lens and potentially apply to your own situation in the hopes of making it a little bit better. Likewise, if you don't deal with chronic conditions and say you care about someone who does, or you just want to learn more about what it means to have a chronic condition or whatever, then you'll find some insight and hopefully I'll be able to build some empathy and understanding in terms of what we all deal with and go through in our day-to-day struggle. Because I can tell you right now that my experience has been living with chronic conditions is both exhausting physically and mentally, and frequently very, very difficult. Having said that, there are bright spots. Reaching a goal, overcoming a challenge, breaking down a wall, getting to that next level, these milestones that we can hit as long as we're moving forward, these things create the foundation we build ourselves on, create the resilience we need to keep going. And that's kind of the focus here, right? I want this to be a positive space. I want this to be more about the good news as opposed to the bad news, if that makes any sense. I don't want to focus on the suffering component. There's enough of that already. We've all seen doctors talk about chronic issues. We've all seen news reporters talk about chronic issues. And it's always, well, they can destroy your life and la da 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 da. Yeah, we get that. However, if there is capacity to move forward, if we have the ability to push on, that's my focus. That's what I want to present here. I want to present that perspective so that it becomes a source of inspiration as opposed to a source of anxiety, right? It's better to hear the good parts and to focus on what we can do as opposed to hear about the stuff that we can't or shouldn't do, when the reality is we don't know until we try. And even if we fail, if we keep trying, eventually we succeed. Now, the other thing is that presenting information in this way, hopefully, will be a little bit entertaining. I mean, constant negativity, I don't find particularly entertaining. I understand that news sites and a variety of news channels seem to think the opposite, and they make a lot of money that way. But for me personally, it ain't my thing. So that's why I want to focus on the things that we can do, the things that we should aim for, the things that will build us up and prevent us from beating up on ourselves when we're feeling down. Now, despite not being an expert, I do treat managing my condition like a job. For a long time, it was a part-time gig, a couple hours a week. Then it got to be a little bit more, and now it's kind of a full-time gig on top of my regular work. Now, I'm lucky enough to have a condition that is not so serious that I can't work. I'm still able to hold down my job. I'm still able to do everything that I need to do, and I'm still able to earn a decent living. And that is honestly a godsend. Now, despite all of my experience dealing with chronic pain, I always thought that I was preparing myself for the day when things were really going to get bad. I had this idea that by the time I turned 65 or so, a lot of the parts of my body that were hurting weren't going to work that well. But I figured I'd have until then to worry about it, right? And so I was sort of preparing myself mentally and physically for that transition. And then boom, I'm in my 40s and everything happens instantaneously. There's no slow glide into old age. It's just like bang, I hit it, and then I completely fall apart. And I had to rebuild myself over the last 3 years, physically and mentally. To get to where I'm at now, where, like I said, I feel more like my old self and I feel a lot more confident and capable than I have for quite some time. Now, I didn't do that on my own. I had a lot of really good people helping me. I had my partner, my wife, I had my family, my friends, I had my bosses, I had therapists, I had specialists, I had doctors. All these people come together to provide me with resources and advice and information and options and plans and, everything that you could possibly imagine to help me through this challenging time. And so I create this channel thinking, you know what? All that information does no one any good if I just keep it bottled up inside. If I don't share it with anybody, if I don't get it out there, it benefits no one other than me. And I really do think that there's a lot of things that I've learned in the last 3 years that can be helpful to other people. I don't think that everything that I say on this channel is going to be, wow, amazing. But I think that as you go through the different videos, you'll be able to pick out bits and pieces of useful information, useful tidbits that you can then filter through your own lens, apply to your own situation, and through that process, get something good out of it. Maybe it's something as simple as feeling a little bit better because you tried a new strategy, or maybe it's an affirmation that makes you feel better because you know what? You're not alone. You're not the only person going through this, right? There's a lot of us who are going to have to deal with this throughout our lives. And that number is just going to keep increasing as the population ages, as we see what COVID has done to people, because doctors are just now starting to dig into, the consequences of multiple infections. And it doesn't really matter where you fall on the vaccination side of things. Like, science is science. If they can establish a link between an infection and an organ injury, I guarantee you those organ injuries are going to turn into chronic conditions in the future. So whether or not we like it, the fact of the matter is the amount of people who have chronic conditions is just going to continue to grow. So the resources that we have, the resources that we need, those need to be better. Those need to be more accessible, readily available, more visible. And that's what I'm trying to do here with this channel. I'm trying to create that environment, get the conversation moving in that direction, build a community where people are helping each other, where there's a lot of empathy and understanding, and where we can finally deal with the stigma associated with having a chronic illness or condition. The fact of the matter is, if the vast majority of people in a general population are going to deal with this at some point during their lives, why are we demonizing it? It doesn't make any sense to me. So that's what I'm doing here. Next up, why I'm doing it. Till then, I'll see you soon.